Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight on the Cameron Peak Fire. My name is Brandolyn Karen. I am a Public Information Officer with the Southwest Area Incident Management Team 3. Tonight, we've got some of our same speakers. Tonight, we've got our Incident Commander, Planning Operations Trainee, and then also the Larimer County Sheriff Office has a representative here as well. We're going to go ahead and let them present the information that they have for you guys today with an update, and then we'll move into a question and answer portion. If you guys have questions for one of those three speakers, go ahead and drop those down into the comment section. We'll get to as many as we can. This evening might be a little bit shorter than normal. We'll see how it goes and just other commitments that our team members may have this evening. If you're watching this after the fact, you can still drop questions in, give us an email, give us a call, and we'll do our best to get those answers for you. So we're going to go ahead and get started tonight with Incident Commander Dave Gesser.
Hey, good evening, Dave Gesser, Incident Commander of the Southwest Team 3. Just real quick, go over some things. Throughout the days, we had a little bit of growth since our last Facebook Live we did of about 127 acres, and mainly sitting in the area right here. A lot of work's been done with air tankers. We've had a few VLATs on the fire. We've had also, which are the very large air tankers. We've had the large air tankers. We've had seats. All of our aircraft, as far as our rotor wings, have been flying. Even as of today, we had 3 seats on the fire. We had 3 heavy helicopters, 4 mediums, and 3 lights flying today. A lot of efforts going in and a lot of work into this area. Corey will talk about that a little bit more. But I do want to let folks know, we are in for a couple of hard days ahead of us with some weather coming in with the winds. And so they're really putting a lot of effort into what we're calling the thumb. And so Corey will talk about that, but we are looking for, a couple hard days out in front of us here with tomorrow and then going into Friday as well. But, we've done a lot of work out here on this, and then also within the Manhattan Road and the communities as well. And so we have, and Corey will talk more on this, as I said, but we have beefed up our night operations to kind of even out where we're sitting with our folks on the daytime and then folks at night as well, to really have the folks on the ground out there that if anything were to happen with the winds coming in, that we are prepared out there. Thank you.
Next, we have Planning Operations Trainee Corey Carlson.
Good evening, everyone. Corey Carlson, Planning Operations Trainee for Southwest Area Team 3. So I'll go around the horn and let you know what's happened on the fire the last couple of days and kind of the plans going forward. So we'll start right in here behind the Glen Echo Rustic area, where we have containment all the way to the Pingree Park Road, down the Pingree Park Road to Buckhorn, and from Buckhorn west to basically where the Pingree Park Road comes in on the south. So that's all contained. Looks really good. We continue to have engines in and around this area monitoring and patrolling. If anything pops up, smoke or anything, they'll take care of it right away. As we go west from the Pingree Park Road down here, we've been hotspot and cold trailing this all the way to kind of the Beaver Creek area. We did push some dozer line down to the road system here, and we continue to work this road system with heavy equipment, dozers, feller bunchers taking out some trees along the road, just kind of a secondary containment feature down there. The Colorado State University mountain campus is in here, some high values, just an extra line of defense should something want to come out of there. Above Comanche Reservoir, a little more activity than we've seen in a while. We actually flew some helicopters on this last couple days. We're not foreseeing much of a threat. This thing just wants to kind of back. It kind of wants to flank, but we wouldn't expect any sort of runs out of this like we've seen in areas like the Thumb. So we have a pretty good setup here. We have a lot of folks down here. We have a lot of water here. So active, but not really moving anywhere. As we go west out of Comanche Reservoir into this area, you know, no real activity. We had a couple smokes popping up near Grass Lake, which we haven't had in weeks. Again, no cause for concern. It doesn't want to move. It's just kind of some nuisance smoke, something to keep an eye on. You know, there's a reason a lot of this stuff didn't burn in the first place, and it's a lot of high elevation, 14,000 foot type stuff, rocky, not a lot of vegetation in there. So we don't expect that to move out of there. Into Rocky Mountain National Park, everything looks really good in here. We had a smoke in here, you know, last week that kind of was a nuisance smoke. We hit it with heavy helicopters hard and put it to bed, and it hasn't shown since then. Kind of moving a little east of the park, Estes Park, Glen Haven, Storm Mountain, the Retreat, Cedar Park. The structure protection plan for these communities is complete. We've done the work there. A lot of hard work went into coming up with a plan for these communities that should be valuable for many years to come, should there ever be another fire that would threaten these communities. So we're scaling back a little bit in here to put a little bit more of our leadership and overhead up here, where we have the most threats. So this will continue to have resources in and around here. We'll maintain a presence. We'll be in the neighborhoods. We have a plan in place. We'll revisit that plan, validate it, and should anything happen, we'll be ready. As we come out of the park, you know, continuing work along the Long Draw Road, hot spotting, cold trailing, still finding heat. We could be finding heat in here for weeks. So we'll continue to just work it. It's very meticulous, very monotonous, a lot of ground to cover, and we'll just continue working that. So I wouldn't expect any containment over the next week or so, but certainly we're getting close. As we come out of here down to Joe Wright Reservoir, we got some good news to share with you. So on the west side of Highway 14, near Joe Wright, we've got containment from here all the way up to our existing containment. So that brings us to 27% contained as of tonight. So that's encouraging. As we leave this area, we get into some pretty steep, rocky, cliff band country where the 103 Larimer River Road comes in. Have some short crews in there, some short squads working in here along the cliff band, just making sure that looks good. A combination of that is occurring here, and then we have dozer line, some more hotspot cold trail, hand crew type work, a little more dozer line, and just kind of the same thing all the way around this. We want to put as many hands in this as possible for the next couple of weeks and make sure that we're 100% confident that nothing would poke out of there. So just again, it kind of shows how long-term an event this is. This fire is a long-term event. It's going to take weeks and weeks of going through this stuff and making sure that it's cold before we step away from this. So as we come out to here, so from here over to this dozer line here, there's several miles of pretty steep, pretty rough country. We have 4 crews in here there. We have 2 what we call type 2 IA crews and a couple hotshot crews in there. They're spanning the course of several miles in here, looking for heat, putting direct fire line where it makes sense, hotspot, cold trailing, and really trying to put this to bed. This has been a concern of mine for a while. We didn't always have the resources to be here and some of the other areas where a lot of the values were. So we finally able to bolster this, and the sooner we can put this to bed, the sooner we can move away from it and not worry about something popping up out of here back towards Kilpecker, the radio communication system, stuff like that. So right here we got a little more dozer line that we've worked out the Kilpecker line, and then we get into the thumb again. This is the area that pooched out on us several days ago. You know, about 2,000 acres, 2,200 acre type run. What we've done is we've been able to come in off this Kilpecker Road with a dozer, and we've been able to get right on the fire's edge. And I'm not going to draw on the map. I'm not going to show you where we're at exactly, because there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to widen this line and bolster it. But initially, we've run a dozer right on this fire's edge to right about here, the middle of section 10. Got dozer line there, and then coming in from this side, we have another dozer. He's pushed open this 517 road, this 198 road to the fire's edge. They've opened that up. They're using a feller buncher to take out some of the trees in there just to make it a lot more accessible. And that dozer that came in on the 198 road, he worked back this way, and there's about a mile gap between this dozer and that dozer. So a little bit of stuff to kind of close the door on that. They'll work on that all through the night. What's been happening at night, they've been getting some downslope winds that have been throwing some spot fires out kind of away from the line. That takes away from actual direct line construction. Those dozers have to back out of there. They have to go chase down these spots. They have to line them, and then they have to come back out and go back to work. We did have a dozer breakdown out there last night. It kind of, caused a little bit of a delay in getting some work done out there. They had to get that dozer pulled out of there today, so we were a little short-staffed last night, but we'll hit it hard again tonight. So we did have a third dozer that came in, and they came in on the same 198 road, and they gone direct and taken it right to the tip of this fire. So that's pretty key. This kind of takes a lot of this potentially out of play for now. I mean, we've gone as direct as possible. There's still a lot of work to bolster that, buffer that in, but it's good news. I mean, the further we can get around the head of this, the better. We continue tonight and tomorrow. We'll open up these 171 road, 171C, 171B, D, these 225 roads. We'll continue to push these open and try to get access further down on the south end. But we're thinking that even in best case scenario, we would only be able to get dozer line to about here. West of that, back to here, it's completely inaccessible by heavy equipment, drainage bottoms that they can't cross, stuff like that. So we're looking really hard at how we're going to be able to close the gap between here and here. It could be hand crews. It could be basically hand crews is kind of our option at this point. One of our biggest concerns at this point is this west wind that's coming and a little bit of a north component that it could push this stuff down here. This 7-mile drainage and system here, once it gets into there, it's going to go in a lot of different directions. It's going to be really hard to manage. We do have this Kilpecker line that we could tie into to try to hold things, but this is there to watch over the next couple of days, especially with the high winds, the critical fire weather, is stuff coming out of here and pushing down and then pushing up. So we're going to continue to look at options in there. This Dead Man's Road, Manhattan Road, there's miles and miles of hose strung out here. There's hundreds of pumps in here, and it's all connected. It's all ready. Should this fire want to move towards the values at risk, we'll be ready. We like Dave said, we've beefed up our night shift significantly. We're almost as heavy on nights as we are in days. That way we're equally as prepared if this fire wants to test us in the evening, that we'd be just as ready for it in daytime or at nighttime. So we have a good plan in here. We've organized it a task force. These folks know exactly what area they're working out, what structures that they would go to, and what the job would entail should fire want to go that way. Same with Glacier View. So there's work being done in there as well. We're heavily focused in here because it's where the values are the closest. We're only 2 or 3 miles from the edge of Red Feather, a few more miles from Crystal Lake. So that's kind of where our focus is, and then along the Manhattan Road. On this Highway 14 corridor, You know, it looks really good. We have a heavy presence in there. We've added a Structure South group in there with some extra supervision, some extra engines. We did some aerial ignitions last night. We dropped, using a helicopter, we dropped PSD, which is basically ping pong balls that have a flammable mixture inside. As they go through the machine in the helicopter, they're injected, they catch on fire, and they drop up on these steep slopes. That fire continues to back overnight towards the road where we can handle it, you know, mop it up, secure it, and just get the fire down to the road so we can handle it on our terms. So that occurred last night. They'll be watching that stuff again tonight, cleaning up by hand if need be. So that's kind of what's going on in there. Again, good progress on the north end, around the tip of this thumb. Some concerns on this south end about how we're going to tie things in. We've been putting retardant down here, but like I told you before, the retardant's only good for so long until we can back it up with boots on the ground. So at some point, we're going to need to do something in there with some boots on the ground, or we're going to have to find a secondary option in here. Kind of back around the horn, I guess. So with that, I probably missed a few things, but ask the questions and we'll try to get an answer. So with that, end report. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Captain Joe Shellhammer from the Larimer County Sheriff's Office.
Good evening. The Sheriff's Office has been engaged in this fire since day one, 24 hours a day. Our whole goal at the Sheriff's Office is to keep these communities safe. Our tasked with evacuations and our damage assessment teams. If structures get damaged, we bring the damage assessment teams in to see what the damage is. Want to thank our communities. They've been fantastic in helping us through this pretty difficult time and working with us to get all the animals out, get all the people out. So far, we've evacuated probably around 10,000 homes with no civilian injuries, no civilian deaths, and countless horses and dogs and everything else. Our community's been fantastic. Working with the teams, the Southwest team, the communication's been fantastic, and just hoping to get through this. Next couple days are going to be pretty tough, but we're looking to keep up our presence and keep everybody safe.
All right, with that, that concludes our speaker portion, and we'll move into the question and answer portion of the evening. If you're just joining us and you didn't really get the information, feel free to drop your question. For those that have already done that, we do have public information officers monitoring those comments right now, and they've already been putting replies into those questions that are coming through. Just a reminder, tonight for questions, we have our incident commander, we have operations, and the Larimer County Sheriff's Office. So go ahead and put those in and we'll get started. All right, first question will be for our incident commander, Dave Gesser. Can you tell us a little bit about what roles the partner agency plays that we work with and how that happens?
Yeah, so, as mentioned, we work very closely with Larimer County Sheriffs who have basically the jurisdiction on fire, some of the fire within the state private land. So we work closely with them, and then we also, utilize the local departments to help with any of the structure protection. They'll assist with any structure needs if that comes of the need for that. But we also, have been working closely with the state, and we are bringing in, I believe it's three other strike teams of engines that will be coming in on Friday morning to assist us. Really just to continue with that prep work that's going in Crystal Lakes, Red Feather, and then around Glacier View, and ensuring that our hose lays, currently on the Manhattan Road and stuff, we have 12 miles worth of hose lay laid out there with pumps set out, water set up there, and we test those on a daily basis. So they've been helping with that with us as well.
Next question is, could you tell us a little bit about what could happen if the fire pushes through the Manhattan Road?
Yeah, so we have established trigger points, as we talked about before, and we did establish a new trigger point set up here for evacuations of Glacier View, which would be mandatory at that point if we did hit that trigger point. If fire did push through here and cross the Manhattan, we do have other options out here looking at some of the other prep that we have done further beyond the Manhattan Road. And then you get into a lot of fuels treatments that the Forest Service and the state and the county have done previous. So we get into some fuels treatments in those areas that would help to assist us as well.
All right, thank you. Next, planning operations trainee, Corey Carlson. First question is, what direction are winds predicted to come out over the next few days?
So the forecasted winds are out of the west. We're looking at winds 15 to 20 with gusts to 30 on Friday. So, and then shifting a little bit out of the northwest after that. But Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, wind directions primarily out of the west, a little bit of a northerly component, and fairly strong with gusts 20 to 30 or higher.
Will the heavy tankers be back tomorrow to hit South Bald Mountain?
So the heavy tankers, that's a national asset. Those are kind of prioritized at a much higher level every morning. Certainly, if we see the need to put retardant on, like we have the last couple of days, we're going to put the order in for those. It just depends on what else is going on across the entire country, whether or not we get those or not. So if we need to, we'll put it in, and we'll see if we get them.
Next question is, has the fire jumped Highway 14 by Glacier View?
No. So everything is looking really good on the Highway 14 corridor, all the way, from this Kanikanik area, all the way back east to above Glen Echo and Rustic, where we have containment. This fire is contained here. No issues with it jumping Highway 14 anywhere.
Can you give more details about the work in the Red Feather and Crystal Lakes area?
It's fairly extensive. There's a mix of dozer lines in and around the community itself on federal land. There's some work that's occurring in areas on private land, as far as some light, some fuels mitigation work. There's pumps, there's hoses, there's sprinklers set up. You name it. There's all kinds of stuff being done in there. Structure assessments being done, kind of triaging being done. A lot of work's been happening in there for weeks.
So in reference to the high winds you spoke of, are those expected high winds, could they move the fire south off of Boston Peak to threaten the homes in the Upper Canyon near Kanikanik?
Yeah, so with the forecasted winds are westerly. It's going to want to push the fire east. Kanikanik's in here. Certainly, if we get a northerly component, it's gonna push the fire that direction. I think this stuff's been worked pretty good with dozers, some hotspot cold trailing. There's not a lot of heat in around this area here. Here's Kanikanik. This stuff's looking pretty good. It's going to be northeast of the Kilpecker line. This is the area that's really steep, really inaccessible, and with a west or northwesterly wind, it's going to want to push it down. We do have a huge presence in here on the Highway 14 corridor. There's been a lot of structure protection that's been put in place already. So if it did want to push that way, we'll be ready for it, and we've done a lot of work in there for that.
Is the heavy equipment used owned by the Forest Service, or is it contracted out from private companies or the state?
Yep. So most of the heavy equipment is contract stuff. And when mean heavy equipment, I'm talking dozers, masticators, feller buncher, skidders, logging equipment, that type of stuff. We have gotten quite a bit of heavy equipment, engines, water tenders, a surge of resources in from the state. That's been super helpful. We got some stuff in from the county the other day with, supporting us, but primarily that logging type masticator, dozer type stuff is generally contract.
It was mentioned that the fire could move in multiple directions if it hit the 7-mile drainage. What are the possible directions it could move in, and what is the plan if it should move towards structures?
Yep, so I don't know if you can see it on the map, but here's 7 Mile, the main drainage here. There's a lot of sub drainages that move off this in multiple different directions, and the terrain is pretty severe in there. So what happens when fire gets in those drainages, it tends to want to funnel upslope, kind of like a chimney. Some of those drainages are fairly tight canyons, and the fire moves just like what the chimney does, where the wind funnels through, and it can take it in different directions. Sometimes not only the general winds and 20-foot winds may be out of the west, but sometimes the winds inside those canyons may just be terrain driven and kind of go upslope or downslope at night is what they tend to do at night. So once it gets into 7 Mile, it's a little unpredictable about which way it would go, but it's generally gonna be troublesome, I would say, to be able to do much in there once it does get in there, at least direct. We'll have to back off, and we'll try to have to see what we can do on the Kilpecker line or some stuff out further east.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll bring up Captain Joe Shellhammer with the Larimer County Sheriff's Office. All right, first question. Can you provide your best estimate on when the community can return to Crystal Lakes and other areas?
It really depends on how the weather goes over the next couple of days. Obviously, we'd love to get people back in their homes as quickly as we can. We have conversations about that with the team multiple times a day. We know it's pretty uncomfortable and difficult to be out of your home, but we make those decisions to make sure everybody is safe, and we'll try to get them back as soon as we possibly can.
Is there a trigger point for voluntary evacuations being issued north of Red Feather Lakes area?
We do have trigger points. Obviously, when things go into mandatory, we get ready for the next area. We do have other trigger points for Cherokee Park and the areas north all the way to the Wyoming state line. So yes, we're thinking ahead. If we need to get there, hopefully we don't.
So Glacier View spans many miles. Is there consideration to evac the westernmost gates first, or what does that look like?
Obviously, we try to have some prediction of where the fire is going and get to those locations first. Our evac strike teams have trained to evac Glacier View, Red Feather, Crystal. We've already done it a few times in this fire. Obviously, the North Rim communities are pretty close to where the fire is coming at. We'll get in there first and get people out that are in harm's way closest to the fire and keep moving east.
All right, thank you. We'll bring up our incident commander, Dave Gesser. Can you tell us how many people are on a crew?
Yeah, so a crew, depending on the type of crew, so your hotshot crews are 20 to 22 personnel. Your type 2 IA crews are the 20 to 22 as well. And then we have, what we call our modules, wildland fire modules, or a short module, and that's basically 10 personnel.
Can you tell us what is happening in the interior area of the fire?
Yeah, so, within the interior, the entire fire area, there's obviously a lot of burned area in there, but really our focus at the time is around the perimeter of the fire. Once we get around the perimeter of the fire and we're sure things are secured around the exterior, sorry, of the fire. Then we start to look at the interior road systems, you know, taking care of any hazard trees along the roads, mopping up along the interior and on the roads and things like that. But our main focus right now is really securing the exterior of the fire and getting that containment around the fire before we really start doing anything interior.
Next question is, how is the overall health and morale of our firefighters? It has been a long season.
It has, you know, especially with like the Southwest team, you know, we've been stood up since April and running since then on several fires, but the morale's good. You know, the folks get their days off, they go home, visit with their families, take some time off. You know, your hotshot crews and a lot of your other folks work really hard, and they'll take, you know, sometimes 3 days off just to get folks back with their families. But the overall morale is really good. You know, the folks are taken care of real good. And yeah, you know, folks get tired, we get tired. You know, it's long days, long hours, and then, you know, long time frames as well, anywhere from 14 to 21 days. And then folks go home and then come back. So it's been a long season.
Next question is in regards to our helicopters and their water capacity. So it's a couple parts. How much water or gallons does the helicopters hold? And do we travel to get the water? Are we using private property ponds, established reservoirs, lakes, rivers? How does that all work?
So there's several things. You know, you got your Type 3 helicopters up to your Type 1s, and that's a light helicopter up to a heavy helicopter. And it ranges on the capacity of the helicopter. So anywhere from 150 gallons up to that 1,500 gallons of water. And they are utilizing, you know, reservoirs, some of the lakes around. There are what we call pumpkins that we set up. There's also things that are called heli-wells. So the pumpkins are almost like an above ground pool. Heli-wells are big tanks that are set up that hold 10,000 gallons of water. So we have water tenders that shuttle that water and keep those full.
All right. That's it for right now. Thank you. All right, back to operations. Corey Carlson. What type of fuels are you dealing with, and how thick is the ground and ladder fuels?
So the fuels, this fire has been primarily fuels driven. A lot of the fuels in here is a lot of lodgepole pine, spruce, fir. There's ponderosa pine. It's a mix of, you know, high elevation type fuels. The biggest problem that we're dealing with is the bug kill. The bark beetle came through here. There's 50 to 70% of some of the overstory here is dead, and that makes it super challenging to do anything with those standing dead fuels. When they catch on fire, you know, they want to throw spot fires, and that's been the primary driver of this continued runs that this fire makes. It just continues to spot out ahead of itself, you know, several hundred yards, gets reestablished and moves again. So there's a mix of fuel types in here. The lodgepole is very thick. It's very difficult to deal with from a fire perspective. But yeah, a wide range of fuels and heavy fuel loading.
Next question is, what is the status of the fire in Rocky Mountain National Park?
Yep, so here's Rocky Mountain National Park in the kind of brown here. Here's the fire within the national park. Ever since the snow came a couple weeks back, this has been looking really, really good. We had one smoke popping up down here in the Chapin Creek area, kind of right on the edge of the green, and we just hammered it with heavy helicopters, and it eventually went away. So fire looks really good in here. We're not concerned with that. You know, there is a little bit of stuff above Comanche Reservoir that's been, you know, acting up. We put some helicopters on it. You know, we're feeling really good about this. We think it will just continue to flank around it here, you know, but there is some potential for it, you know, under some, you know, windy or extreme conditions that it could push into the park, but we don't expect that. A lot of this stuff is real rocky up here. There's not a lot of avenues for it to come out of here, even if it wanted to. So fire in the park looks good.
Next question is about the equipment we use. What are the 12 miles of hose hooked up to?
So the 12 miles of hose, that's just along the Manhattan Road. There's probably many miles of additional hose throughout. So they hook into all kinds of things. They hook into pumpkins, like Dave talked about. Those are the big above ground swimming pool type things. We put pumps in there that float in there, and then we hook the hose up to those, and then we continue to refill with water tenders. We put in an order for 8 water tenders today that holds, several thousand gallons of water, and we'll have those staged up there. The hose hooks to them. We also use the abundance of water that's flowing in and around this area. We could put those pumps into the reservoirs, the creeks, and have an endless supply of water. So, that's something we're pretty fortunate with on this fire, is there are a lot of natural water sources. It's not always the case on some fires, in desert country. There's a lack of water. We're feeling pretty fortunate with the water sources that we have out here to keep those many miles of hose full.
Has the threat to Crystal Lakes lessened with the dozer lines that are being put in on the north side of the thumb?
Yes, everything that gets put in on this north part of the thumb and down around here takes potential for this fire to make a run towards Crystal Lake further out of play. If nothing else, it'll take the punch out of this fire if it does move here. And even if it does move north, we have this Dead Man Road that we've spent a lot of time and invested a lot of time in it. We've got some new dozer lines in and around Crystal Lakes. We got hose lays in here. So feeling pretty good. The more we can get around this north piece, the more it takes some of these things, these communities, out of play to a lesser degree.
All right, thank you. Incident Commander Dave Gesser. We've had a couple of our community members asking about defensible structure, defensible space. What does that look like? And is there something they could do moving forward to either get an evaluation on their property, or what can they themselves do to help out the firefighters to protect their homes?
Yeah, good question. So, you can check in with your local fire departments, the Forest Service as well, and Larimer County. But a lot of that is that vegetation, keeping that space between your structures and your homes, ensuring that vegetation is clear, keeping your trees limbed up so that you don't have those ladder fuels, keeping your wood products, your firewood, not stacked underneath porches or away from the house, ensuring your gutters are cleaned out from any debris that sits up in the gutters, and ensuring that basically just everything's cleared out around your space within a 30-foot spacing.
So Corey talked earlier a little bit about firing operations and what we've kind of already done on the fire. But somebody is asking, to what extent will any prescribed burns in the thumb area help with slowing down the fire?
Yeah, so the fuels treatments that have been done out in this area and then a lot out here, but basically with the prescribed fires, it takes away a lot of your ladder fuels. They do thinning projects as well, which reduces the amount of trees that are within an area. But mainly your prescribed fire is taking out a lot of your ladder fuels, your ground fuels, consuming a lot of your hundreds and 1,000-hour fuels. And what I mean by that is by diameters. So your 1-hour fuels are very small. Your 10 hours get a little bigger, and then it goes up to your hundreds and thousands. And basically, your 100-hour fuels are like a tree laying on the ground, getting up to the bigger diameters. So that clears that fuel out in there and allows, what it does is allow that fire then, if it were a crown fire and the canopy's being thinned out, the fire will drop back down to the ground level, which gives us more of an opportunity to be able to pick up the fire and fight the fire easier. And then the other thing with that is that it shortens your flame lengths. So as a crown fire, as you all know, it has a possibility of reburning. And so it'll run through the canopies of the trees, but then it can also drop to the ground and burn on the ground as well. So by reducing that and limiting that, it helps with the suppression efforts.
All right, thank you. We'll bring up Captain Joe Shellhammer from Larimer County Sheriff's Office. So this one's a little bit longer. I'm going to combine a couple questions that we've had from folks. So when it comes to the different evacuation areas, whether they're mandatory or voluntary, what allows people to come in and out, or if they can come in and out of those areas?
It's really a day by day based on fire behavior and what's going on with the weather. We are trying to have escorts available, especially in the voluntary areas, letting people get back into their houses if they need to pack up more stuff. Just reiterating to them that, hey, fire's pretty close. You need to be ready to go pretty quickly. In the mandatory areas, the same. If the fire's a lot closer, the dangers are a lot higher. We're still trying to get folks in. If they need to winterize a cabin or get medication, we'll send an escort with them, get them back to that place, get what they need, and make sure they get out safely. I'm trying to keep track of everybody that is in those areas to make sure that they know if the fire hits those areas that they need to get out quickly. And we're trying to keep track of everybody and everything and keep everybody safe.
All right, thank you. Bring up our incident commander, Dave Gesser.
So, I appreciate everyone getting on and joining us. And just a few things I wanted to talk about is, I appreciate everyone's patience with this fire. I know it's been a long fire. I believe we're going into 39, 40 days with this fire. And I know folks are displaced and out of their homes, but there's reasoning behind that, and I'm sure you all understand that. The folks on the ground are doing everything they can to protect your homes and to be able to do the work out there. But this is, as Corey mentioned, some pretty tough ground in some of this area, a lot of beetle clay. And, we're trying to also keep our firefighters safe as well as you all. So please have those patience with us. We're doing everything we can and hope, with these updates, it's helping everyone out quite a bit. Thank you.
All right, with that, that's all the time we have this evening. But if you're watching this after the fact, again, put those questions in the comments, reach out to us over the phone or send us an email, and we'll try to get you your answer or point you in the right direction. So as far as information moving forward, you have this Facebook page that you're currently on. Don't forget that we also have an INSI web page. We have a story map page and also a YouTube account for all of the videos we produce for both our operations as well as these live meetings. So make sure to share those with your family and friends so that that information can get out there and hopefully just ease any anxiety that folks might have. Again, reach out to us. That's what we're here for. We want to thank you for your support and have a great evening.